Introduction to Green Chemistry and Chemical Leasing. Thank you so much for your attendance today. My name is Mairina Firdayati, and I am your host for this webinar. So hopefully all of you in good and healthy condition. Among our November rainy months is the same situation with Serbia, I think. And also our PPKM level 1 dan 2 ya, or community activities restriction enforcement. Yeah, in our latest COVID-19 situation is in low level now. Hopefully this trend will continue for the next and future. So before we start, let me read out the agenda for this afternoon. Okay. So we will start with welcome remarks from Professor Chandra Setiadi, and then our main session, Introduction to Green Chemistry and Chemical Leasing by Dr. Branko and Ms. Foika. And then we will continue with Q&A session for around 30 minutes. And then we will close this webinar with introduction and Q&A session for Indonesian National Training on IOMC ToolBox, Green Chemistry and Chemical Leasing. So I will start our first agenda with welcoming remarks from Professor Chandra Setiadi from Industrial Engineering Faculty of ITB. Silakan Pak Chandra.
So I would like to greeting first our participants. So that good afternoon to all of you, and also especially to Branko. Good morning to Branko and Foika. Foika, thank you for your time. For today, we have the webinar on the introduction to green chemistry and chemical leasing. So this webinar is the introduction to the national training under the project IOMC ToolBox from design to action. So the purpose of this project is to continue improving the functionalities and broadening the scope and application of the IOMC ToolBox, especially in the UNIDO chemical leasing and green chemistry toolkits. So the national training, national, it's been that the Indonesian national training, it will be started from the November 23rd, so until the end of the December. It will be 7th meeting, and the objective of the training is one is the capacity building to the Indonesia people, so to the Indonesia expertise here to use the IOMC ToolBox in the chemical management, especially for the industrial sector and also the chemical management, and also to the other stakeholders, and also to raise awareness about the role of chemical management in the industrial application. So we would like to invite all of you, actually, who are attending this webinar. It might be you if you are interested, so you may join the national training, and at the end of this webinar, I will talk with you probably about 15 minutes in Bahasa Indonesia, in Indonesian language, to give you more information on the national training. So, I would like to thank to you all, and please enjoy the webinar and learn from the expert, from Branko and Foika, regarding the chemical, green chemistry and chemical leasing. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Pak Chandra. Okay, so to all participants, we already share the background for this Zoom meeting in chat room. So all of you can use this background Zoom. So we can see each other, yeah? And hopefully it will intense our communication. So our next agenda is the main session. We have guest speakers from Europe, maybe with the plan about more than 15 hours from Indonesia. Yeah. So I welcome Dr. Branco and Foika, and I will introduce them with CV. Yeah. Okay. So as you already see in our flyer, we have two speakers, Dr. Branko Dunjik and Ms. Voislavka Satirik. And if I can read your CV, Branko, hopefully not wrong take it. Dr. Branko is a director of Serbia National Cleaner Production Center of Faculty of Technology and Metallurgy, University of Belgrade, Serbia. He also president of the RECP Net, global network of cleaner production centers that's supported by UNIDO and UN Environment. He holding a PhD in chemical engineering and works on a number of projects sponsored by UNIDO, the Serbian Ministry of Science and Education, and international finance corporations and others. And his areas of expertise about process optimization, polymer design, synthesis, and characterization, and then RECP, of course, and green and sustainable chemistry. And he already published over 40 scientific papers and the co-holder of 4 patents. And then our second speakers, Ms. Voislavka Satirik, or we can call you Foika, yeah? Hello, Foika. She is an international consultant for UNIDO. She graduated from chemical engineer, and then she is expert on chemical leasing and cleaner production in Serbia National Cleaner Production Center. She is also a speaker and trainer in many international events for chemical leasing. So for our session, I will invite all of you to give a question maybe or comments, and our host will share a link for a question with Slido, ya, Pak Guntur nanti tolong ya, with Slido, so you can write your question in this app. And then after Branko and Foika give their presentation, I will read and show the question to them, and they will maybe read and then ask some question. Hopefully we have much time to do that. Yeah. So okay, now we can start the presentation. So I will give the floor to Branko and Foika.
Okay, thank you, Marina, for a great introduction. And thank you all of you for being today with us. And Voika and I, we agreed that I will start and she will continue. I will start with a brief introduction about the project, about the IOMC ToolBox and green chemistry. And then Voika will speak about chemical leasing, if it's okay with you. Okay, let me share my screen. And I hope you can see it.
Yes. we can
Very
see.
good.
Yes.
Very good. Okay, so again, thank you very much for this opportunity to talk to our colleagues, and I can call you some people that we spent the last 2 months together. We are becoming friends, even though we never met in person. But I hope that COVID will allow us to meet in person, and it's really a great pleasure to be here and to speak about our project. As Myrina said, my name is Branko, and I'm living here in Belgrade, Serbia. We were chatting about the weather. Right now it's sunny, but yesterday was raining, and every day which will pass, it will be colder and colder. So normally somewhere in beginning of December, we will have some snow, and yeah, that's the way how it is in Europe. And Myrina was kind enough to invite me to come to Indonesia during the winter time, so I can enjoy a little bit of nicer weather, if I may say. Today we are here to speak about your upcoming national training, and I'm really glad that I can speak in English, and I hope that most of you will understand. If something is not clear, please, Myrina, interrupt me or anyone, and you can maybe translate in your national language if some of the things that I'm speaking or Vojka is speaking is not clear. As Myrina said, I'm a chemical engineer. I changed many jobs in my life, but mostly I was doing research. Then I went and I work as assistant professor at the university, teaching macromolecular chemistry, polymers, and everything. Then I went to industry, and I was working for 10 years. And this is where I met Vojka. She was a technical manager in the biggest paint and resin producer in Serbia. We know each other for a long time ago, and she is one of the most knowledgeable persons, I would say, in the world about the paint and coatings. But during last 10 years or so, we started to work more on resource efficiency, on sound chemicals management. And as you mentioned, we are working on a lot of projects, and right now we are managing one very important project, which is also related to elimination of lead from paints. And Vojka was managing our company, which had more than 1,000 employees, to phase out lead. So if anybody else in the attendance wants to speak also about this work, which is kind of green chemistry as well, we are really happy to do it. Also, what I have to say right now is that Indonesia is one of 6 or 7 countries, together also with Serbia, Ukraine, Peru, and other countries. We, together with UNIDO and your Ministry of Environment, we are trying to get a project on green chemistry, and it should be approved by the GEF in December this year, and we hope that it will be approved by the GEF. And this project also has a lot of things related to green chemistry, and some of the materials that you are going to see will be useful for some of you that will be, I'm sure, included in this project. And I can share with you, Tiandra, and Myrina, the project document and what the plan for the next 5-6 years if we get this project, and I believe that we will get. But this includes also awareness raising, curricula for the universities, networking, and some pilot projects. So I think it's really timely that we are talking about green chemistry right now. First, I would like to tell you something about our project and why we are here. And it's Tiandra's and Myrina's idea to first give some kind of introduction to what's going on, so what will follow. And we have now a project, so Cleaner Production Center of Serbia get the project from UNIDO. So this project is financed by UNIDO. And the goal of this project is to promote the implementation of the guidance material for sound chemicals management developed by IOMC participating organizations. I will speak about what is IOMC, and also to raise awareness about and the train on the use on toolbox in Indonesia. I deliberately left out Sri Lanka and Vietnam. I don't know if there are people in the attendance, because I saw that some people on LinkedIn, that some people from Sri Lanka and other countries from the region were interested also to join. And the goal of this project is to build capacities in Indonesia to fulfill their role in sound chemicals management. And we want to strengthen the environmental governments in these countries. To summarize the training, we already gave 8-day training to some 8 or 10 people from Indonesia, and I'm happy to tell you that all of them passed the test, and I hope that you already have your certificates. And those people, trainers, will deliver a national training, 7-day training on IOMC ToolBox, green chemistry, and chemical leasing toolkits. And today is just a glimpse or a small part of what's going to happen in next 7 days in national trainings in Indonesia. So first, let me say why we are talking about chemicals. This is a pretty old diagram, but I have to admit I couldn't find something similar right now, but it was made in 2017, and it speaks about the increase of the market and production of chemicals until 2030. I'm sure that this is not completely right picture right now, but you can see from this diagram, and I don't think it changed even with the COVID situation, that chemical production will grow and it will double in 15 years. So it will reach, and we speak here about not about tons, we speak about the value of chemicals that are going to be produced. It should reach about 6.3 thousand billions of euros. And what is also important to see that the production of chemicals and even use of chemicals will shift from Western countries, from US and Europe, to your region. And it was already true in 2017. You can see that 34% of chemicals produced were in China and some 19% in the rest of Asia. This will grow, China will grow, and okay, in percentage, the rest of Asia will be going down, but it is more than 60% of production of chemicals will be in your region. Overall, the chemicals are everywhere, and our life is really connected to chemicals. And we can discuss with historians whether it is good or bad. Did we do a good thing developing industry and chemistry or not? But this is the situation right now. I don't think that we can now live without chemicals. At least we cannot do it very soon. You see that products of chemical industry are antibiotics and other medicines. I cannot imagine our life now without that. In the food sector, a lot of fertilizers, pesticides are coming from chemical industry. Of course, plastics, which is completely man-made material. Gasoline and other fuels are also, okay, they are raw materials. We are not doing too much chemistry with them. We are just distillating it and purifying, but some of the chemicals like additives in lubricants are products of chemical industry, and We have a lot of chemicals used now in water purification. Since today we cannot imagine drinking water from the rivers, unfortunately, all the water that we are drinking now in some stage was in contact with some chemical to be purified. So the purpose of this slide was to show that we cannot get rid of chemicals and we cannot live without chemicals. We can, of course, if there is some, I don't know, catastrophe and there is no chemicals, of course we can live. We cannot live without food and water. But to live in 21st century without chemicals would be really difficult to imagine. But in the same time, the chemistry or the discipline which is doing the chemicals and chemistry and chemical industry is some 200 or 250 years old. And we have now in 21st century, we have a lot of experience with the chemicals. And we know now that some of the chemicals that were very popular, maybe 50, 60 or 100 years ago, were indeed very toxic. And now we are spending a lot of money and we are paying a high price in human lives because of some chemicals. For example, we were using a lot of persistent organic pollutants. We were using, and in this group is, for example, oil transformers. It was perfect product at this time, but finally we discovered that it was carcinogenic, it was mutagenic, and the worst part of it, that it was it cannot be destroyed. The same thing is with the DDT, which was really a life savior for people suffering from living in countries where the malaria is widespread. But later we found out that DDT cannot be degraded in the in nature, and it stays forever. Once you spray DDT in some area, it will not degrade. And since it's not degrading, it can travel long distances. So they found DDT in North Pole. And this knowledge about chemicals and about hazardous properties of chemicals prompted the action from different UN organizations or international organizations and NGOs and academia. So there were a lot of programs, lot of materials, lot of toolkits, lot of management schemes that were all around the globe. So UNIDO was working on something, ILO was working on something, other organizations were working on something. But back in 1995, some organizations, and you will see which, they set together and they said, okay, we are working on different chemicals management things, but we are not working together. Let's create something which we will work together. And they created IOMC. And IOMC stands for Inter-Organization Program for the Sound Management of Chemicals, which was established in 1995. And it was established to strengthen international cooperation in the field of sound chemicals management. Here, and 5 minutes before my talk, I share my presentation with the organizers. You see which organizations are contributing to the IOMC. One of them is UNIDO, who is now sponsoring this project. But for those who will continue with Chandra and Myrina and the organizers for the 7 days training, you will have opportunity to hear from FAO, from ILO, from UNEP, from UNITAR, from WHO, from OECD. How do they see their contribution to the IOMC toolbox? I already said that. So IOMC was created in 1995, and they realized that they have hundreds thousands of tools, materials, resources, texts, textbooks, I don't know, fact sheets, etc., etc. But it was not organized, and it was difficult to find in a structured way all of those materials. That's why they decided in 1995 to create a website, a platform that will guide the users to find their what is needed to them. So this is how the IOMC toolbox was created, and now we have the newest version, and you can discover it if you type IOMC toolbox. I just realized that I didn't see you a link. I will put it in the chat. Every country has some national chemical profile, the priorities and everything. So then you identify what is the priority for countries. I mean, Indonesia is a really big country, and I'm not a specialist. I didn't study what is the most important industry in Indonesia, but I guess also agriculture is important for Indonesia, textile is important for Indonesia, etc. So your country and the people who are drafting the laws, or consultants or academia, they know what are their priorities. What is also important, and this is mostly for the government, they should decide whether they have enough resources to draft a law or a management scheme, and they can decide, do we have enough money or not enough money? Do we want to put a whole department to work on a law, or we will hire or recruit maybe 1 or 2 consultants to draft a law or regulation? Then, using the toolbox, they can solve the problem. What is the most effective solution for my country? By using all of those tools that are available now for free at the IOMC toolbox. And I will invite you, even if some of you, and I see that we are already 60 participants, and I'm so honored to speak in front of such a big audience. Even if you don't want to attend this training, I would invite you to visit IOMC toolbox. And we usually say it is better when you need something from chemicals management or anything which is related to chemicals. It is better to use IOMC toolbox than the Google. Google has improved in the last several years, but you will find reliable, checked, verified information from trusted sources on the IOMC toolbox. This is the screenshot of the IOMC toolbox. If you go there, and I will give you, and I'm sorry I didn't put on the slide anywhere, but you can, IOMC toolbox, if you Google it, you will find it. This is internet-based platform, which enables countries to identify most relevant, efficient national chemicals management actions. And also, as I said, takes into account how many resources do you have. And at each implementation step, the toolbox presents the relevant resources which are there. So again, you see here, you can, if you are coming from the government, but even if you are not coming from the government, if you are academic, and I believe that people from who are listening to us are also coming from academia, you can find a lot of information from the IOMC toolbox. And toolbox contains schemes and toolkits. Here you can see the first two. The schemes is for chemical accident prevention from a globalized harmonized system, the industrial chemicals management, national pesticides management, occupational health and safety. And you can see you have a PDF files which are completely free, and they were drafted by the best experts in the field. you can find pollutant release and transfer registers, public health management of chemicals, and best available techniques for preventing and controlling industrial chemical pollution. If you go there, you can download those schemes, or even better, if you are drafting a law or you are working on some project, you can, during each step, you will get the appropriate resources for that step. They will say, okay, check this scheme, check this toolkit, try with this. You can find more information here, etc., etc. So that's what I'm saying. But you will, for those who will stay with Chandra and his team and go for a national training, they will get much more information about the toolbox, and they will get detailed information about what's in it for each of those chemical schemes. And closing this part of the IOMC toolbox, I also should say that it contains 8 management schemes, and it is mostly for the governments to create laws, bylaws, or to see how it is done in other countries. You will, if you listen on 23 or 25, I don't remember, some people from OECD who is hosting this toolbox will tell you how you can compare the situation in your country to the situation which is in the country next to you. So you can find, for example, pesticide scheme which is in Vietnam or in India or in Sri Lanka. So you can compare how is your legislation doing. So there are also 6 toolkits, and in red I put a green chemistry toolkit and chemical using toolkit, which are the topic of this project. We raise awareness about this, but please, you can check on the IOMC Toolbox website. You can check all the toolkits depending on what is your interest. Well, you see, I close now the part about the IOMC Toolbox, and I go now to the part, my part. This is to introduce you the concept of the green chemistry and also the toolkit a little bit. But still, this is only a small presentation, what you are going to learn if you decide to go on 7-day national training that is organized by Chandra and his team. And Myrina, I don't know if do you want, do we have any questions right now, or I can continue?
Okay, Branko. So Bapak Ibu, maybe among all of you have a question for Branko. You can raise your hands so I can.
Oh, maybe Branko, you finish with the green chemistry first from the
Yes. No,
okay.
I mean, it's for me, and I'm sure that I'm speaking also for Vojka. You can interrupt me whenever. I also like to discuss, and of course, if I know to answer the question, I don't promise that I know answer to all the questions. But let me just now go to the green chemistry. But since I used to be a professor, I always like to repeat what we covered so far. And again, this is just I would say advertising for the national training that will happen starting November, end of November, 7 days training, and you will be trained how to use the IOMC toolbox to get a detailed information. What is the IOMC toolbox? Why? Who can use it? Why it is useful? What you can find in it? And also, we selected, and UNIDO selected 2 toolkits out of 6 to be presented at the national training. And those toolkits are green chemistry toolkit and chemical leasing toolkit. And I'm now talking about what is green chemistry. I really don't know how many of you are chemists or coming from, maybe we can discuss it later, but what is green chemistry? Green chemistry is pretty, it's a not so new concept. It has been created by Professor Paul Anastas and John Warner 20 or 30 years ago. And I'm not going to tell you, we will speak about 12 principles of the green chemistry. Everything started with the book, but I see that Josephine, she raised hand. Maybe Myrina, she wants to ask something right now, or we wait for
Josephine,
questions. And
so you have, you like to, please, Josephine. Josephine, you.
Yes.
Okay, Josephine, please.
Yeah. I wonder about why the name of green chemistry. If I see about the definition or explanation, it's about to reduce the hazard and make a more safety chemistry. Why not we use the name of savior chemistry? Green is about the plant, yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean,
so
I told you that. Thank you for this question, and I will tell you right now that green chemistry is a term that was made by Professor Paul Anastas and John Warner in their book Green Chemistry. But you are absolutely right. For example, Germany, which is, I would say, a leading country in chemical research beside United States, they don't call it green chemistry, they call it sustainable chemistry. So if you want to say safer chemistry, you are absolutely right. But we always, and when Vojka will talk about chemical leasing, we were also discussing about the name. And I think it's important that we know what we are talking about. And there are differences between sustainable chemistry and green chemistry. We can also say that there will be a difference between green chemistry and safer chemistry. But in my view, it's important that we know what we are talking about. And you are absolutely right. The green chemistry should be a safer chemistry. And I said before, we were producing for decades a lot of chemicals. While we are speaking right now, somebody is releasing a new chemical, a new material. And we will see only in 20 years, or maybe sooner, whether this chemical or product or process is safe for the humans and the environment. And the green chemistry is sustainable design, you see here. It requires a different way of thinking. And you and all of us, when we are designing the new processes, designing new materials, new molecules, we should think about influence on the human health and on the environment. And so far, it was not the case. So you are absolutely right. Green chemistry can be also called a safer chemistry, but also sustainable chemistry. I hope that I answer your question.
Yes, thank you, Branko, because maybe my audience will ask me about the name too, because in safety, we call the safer chemistry.
Yes.
Thank you.
And yeah, and we just learned on 28th of October that Paul Anastas, this is his picture here from Yale University. He won the 2021 Volvo Environmental Prize. If you check on the internet, this is one of the highest awards you can get in environmental chemistry or in environment at all. I'm not saying that Professor Anastas is going to win a Nobel Prize, but the truth is that among 20 or so winners so far, 3 of them later, they won a Nobel Prize. Why I'm so honored to speak about that, because Professor Paul Anastas, not maybe him personally, we had the chance to speak to him also in person, but his team from Yale University, they contributed a lot to the development of the green chemistry toolkit. So he is, I would say, guilty why we are calling this green chemistry. But you know, maybe 25 years ago when this book was released, it was modern. Now we are talking more about sustainability. And let us now, just for all of us who are involved in a chemical industry and in designing the chemicals. And here, I have to say my personal opinion is that the green chemistry cannot offer really immediate response to some burning question. It is a way of thinking, and I'm so happy that this project is hosted by university in Indonesia, since we have to speak to our students that will be becoming engineers, decision makers, how to use and how to think about chemicals, to learn from the mistakes made in the past and to avoid those mistakes if it is possible. So those are the traditional design criteria if you want to create some material, or if you want to create some new molecule. You are interested in those materials because you are creating something for pharmaceutical industry, for automotive industry, for oil and gas, or something like that. Some of those criteria and properties are interesting for you. But what we need to change right now? Additionally, we need to think about toxicity and environmental impact. And you are absolutely right. This is about safety. So we are still interested in mechanical, chemical, electrical properties, etc., etc. But we need to think about and say, okay, hold on for a minute. It's very nice. It has very nice solubility. It has exactly the melting point we need. It has really great mechanical properties, etc., etc. But what can happen when we release this material, or when we release this process, when we release this chemical? What can happen with toxicity or environmental impact? And for those who will stay on the training, they will learn much more in details how we can now predict, even without creating a chemical, how we can predict about the toxicity, about the environmental impact. And you will learn about some computer programs and about some computational methods that can give you the answer how we can create the safer materials. On this slide, I merged two concepts. One is life cycle assessment, and the other is 12 principles of the green chemistry. 12 principles were determined by those two scientists, Professor Warner and Anastas, and you can read them here. It's waste prevention. So whenever we do something, we have to think about the waste. Atom economy, you will learn this during the course, but atom economy means that we have to think how many atoms from our starting materials are going into desired product. Then we need to use less hazardous chemical synthesis whenever it's possible, to design safer chemicals, to avoid using solvents or use less hazardous solvents, to design processes and materials for energy efficiency, to use renewable feedstocks whenever it's possible, to reduce derivatives for those who are skilled in chemical synthesis. You know that sometimes we need to use derivatives during the synthesis, but those derivatives are becoming mostly the waste. To use catalysis in processes, not stoichiometric reactions, and it makes sense. And right now, 10 most common chemicals are produced by catalysis, but mostly also what is more important, all chemical processes in our bodies are catalytic. None of them is stoichiometric. And stoichiometric is just because we are not skilled enough to make ammonia or to make polymers or to make ethylene or vinyl chloride monomer differently. We have to learn more. We have to design the molecules for degradation. We have to have monitoring during the process, because monitoring, and those who are working in resource efficiency knows that the first measure when you go to a company is to tell them that it is important to measure as much as possible, and of course to use safer chemistry as a concept. And you can see that where all of those 12 principles are playing the role in life cycle analysis. And life cycle analysis is used, and you will learn about that, and probably some of you already know, is used to assess how our process or material or our chemical or molecule will behave in different processes, different stages of the life. And on this slide is just how do we define less hazardous chemicals. And bravo to the lady who asked the question about safer chemistry, because you see that green chemistry is not about more efficient chemistry, even though it is more efficient, but it is safer. So we need to have less toxic to organism, to ecosystem, not to stay in the nature, and to be safer to handle. In the course that will follow, you will learn more about computational or software tools that will help you to understand how, by playing of these properties, molecular properties, here, molecular weight, polarizability, ionization potential, how you can play and relate this to the toxicity. And it's not easy, because sometimes we are just, I'm personally really skilled in this, but I don't know about toxicity. That means that we have to be interdisciplinary. When we imagine in our heads this material, this process, we calm down and we say, okay, let's ask somebody who is skilled in toxicity, and they will tell me whether to proceed or not with my process. And I said 10 minutes ago that the green chemistry may not solve immediate problems. It is more the journey that we will have to start right now. But I'm happy to tell you that we have documented and commercial green chemistry solutions for the problems right now in all the sectors. And even if you don't take this course, you can access this technology compendium, which is made by Yale Center for Green Chemistry from United States, together with Cleaner Production Center from different countries, including Serbia, where we put together some 200 commercial solutions for different sectors. It is freely available. You can download it, and sometimes you can find that maybe in the application that you are doing, there is already a green chemistry solution. And some of the examples, we all know the PET bottles, which are made out of oil by catalytic polycondensation of transesterification of this ester, and we get a PET plastic. A similar, maybe not so good material, but much better for the environment is polylactic acid. It can be synthesized from the starch, for example, from corn, and then polymerization of the lactic acid, we can get polylactic acid. I have to tell you, I work on polylactic acid. It's a great material. It doesn't have mechanical and barrier properties like PET, but it doesn't create a fraction of the problem which is created by PET. So we have to think in life cycle assessment whether it is a good alternative or not, but it exists already. You can buy PLA granules. Also, some of the very, very nasty materials, which are called POPs, but very useful, which were used in firefighting foams, can be replaced by some new material, which is called here a rehealing foam. I don't have any other information about it, other than there is no materials like this one, and 93% of ingredients are degraded when you are, for example, you have a lot of fire, then you spray, and the foam is going into a ground. And before, this molecule went into ground, and then it goes into underwater, our water that we will drink, and this molecule never degrades. And also, this is something that we visited. I had a pleasure to visit is polyethylene, a normal polyethylene that you use, but it is not made from oil. It is made from sugar cane. They produce, of course, ethanol. Then they do dehydratation, and they create ethylene, which is normally polymerized in polyethylene and polypropylene. We can discuss whether it is true green chemistry, but in a life cycle assessment, it is a negative carbon impact. Only thing that we have to really be aware of is competition between food and energy. And I believe that this is very close to the end. For the people, if we have some colleagues from industry or from research community, there is really a big increase of sustainable chemicals or green chemicals, so safer chemicals. And you see that already now the global market of sustainable chemicals, it's not so big, it's 60.3 billion, but it is going to grow every year. And we are now, during the COP26, they are also speaking about sustainable chemistry, about moving away from fossil fuels and from oil. So it pays off to invest in green chemistry solutions. If we apply green chemistry or safer chemistry or sustainable chemistry, of course, we will have some benefits. But the first benefit is, I would say, the most important. We humans, we are not really good in sacrificing our comfort for the environment. But the good thing is that new products, if are designed properly, normally are cheaper. Why they are cheaper? Because they do not create waste, they use less energy, and they degrade in the environment. So you don't have to pay taxes. You don't have to pay all the charges for the waste. And this is really important. And I would paraphrase I heard this from Professor Anastas. For example, Elon Musk. I don't know, what do you think about him, about electrical cars? I have my opinion about electrical cars, but he said, I didn't want to create the best electrical car. I just wanted to create the best car, but it happened to be electric. So if we say we don't want to do a green chemistry because we are good, we want to do a best chemistry. And we think that the best chemistry is a green chemistry. Here you can find the website of the Green Chemistry Toolkit, and you will learn more about it. And you see here how many resources are there, including presentations, PDF, fact sheets, guidance, etc., etc. And with this, I will stop my presentation, and I'm sure that I'm over the time, but I can speak much more than you can listen. Thank you for your attention, and I don't know, Myrina, if we now go directly to Vojka or we address some questions.
Yeah. Thank you, Branko. Maybe let me speak with Indonesian first ya. Bapak Ibu, apakah ada pertanyaan dulu untuk materi pertama mengenai green chemistry? Belum ada? Mau kita lanjutkan dulu ya? Oke, kalau belum ada, so Branko, maybe they will ask later, so we can continue maybe to Voika.
Yes, yes, thank you very much.
So the presentation file has been sent to the chat box. Please, if you like to download, you may download it.
I hope you see my presentation.
Okay, great.
Yes, we can see Voika.
It's
Yes.
not,
Good,
yeah.
thank you. Thank you. I will try to be brief, to try because we are a lot behind schedule. But I'm going to tell you something about chemical leasing. Chemical leasing is a business model for chemicals management, and it is one of the toolkit in the IOMC toolbox. What is situation today about global resources? We tripled use of global resources since 1970 to 92 from to 92 billion tons, and it is tripled today. Yes, but we have to do something because if we don't take actions, we will have a level to 190 billion tons by 2060. You saw this slide. I'm not going to talk about it, just to mention that more than 100,000 chemicals are in use, and for most of them we don't know anything about hazardness. Only 10 to 15% of chemicals of these 100,000 is we know about them. So we have to be very careful about use of chemicals. And we have to implement decoupling concept, decoupling business success from resource use, and it requires clear vision of dematerialization, and chemical leasing one of the tools for dematerialization. Something about traditional business model we are used to. Traditional sales business models for chemicals, not only for chemicals, for all goods, have offered little or no incentives to prevent overconsumption or to promote knowledge transfer for efficient use of chemicals. But it is normal because in traditional model business models, the more we sell, the more our profit is higher. So in traditional models, suppliers do not care very much about users' needs to use less chemicals or other materials. And the next stage was selling of products and services, so-called chemical product services. In this model, a producer or supplier sells chemical and services, but services are extra services are paid. And in this model, selling is still by volume. And today, more and more, we have selling of functional chemical, and chemical leasing is one of that model. Suppliers are paid to meet performance needs of a customer by offering different product services. And paying is not related to volume, but to performance of chemicals. What is the basic idea behind service-based business strategies? First, user of chemicals does not pay for the volume of chemicals, but for the benefits of chemicals. And suppliers of chemicals sell the function of chemicals, including know-how that is very important part of chemical leasing, on efficiency and risks, and of course, management services and logistics. Amount of chemical produced will decline as the volume of chemicals turns from a factor of earning to the cost driver. You will learn a bit more about this. I didn't want to explain this mechanism. Maybe it is not very clear when you say something like that. But if you are going to be participants and national trainings, you will hear about this mechanism, how it works. And it's very important, of course, businesses, because of money, added value should be shared fairly among the partners that are involved. Chemicals are not, let me say, ordinary materials, because through all life cycle of chemicals, we have to take care about environmental health and safety management, and also data management. We all know how many regulations are in, I suppose, also in Indonesia regarding, first of all, hazardous chemicals. But managing chemicals in companies is very challenging, because each process needs some expertise, but companies, of course, do not have experts in chemicals in their processes that are not core processes in the company. What is chemical leasing? It is performance-based business model that shifts the focus from increasing sales volume of chemicals toward the value-added approach. It is based on a shift from volume-based payment, for example, dollars per ton of chemicals, to benefit-oriented payment, so-called unit of payment. It is based on the service rendered by the chemicals. For example, if you would like to, this is an example from Serbia, if we would like to bond the boxes, we need, of course, glue. In classical business model, payment is per ton of glue, but in chemical leasing, it is number of bonded boxes, because that is a service done by chemical bonded boxes. For example, if we are talking about powder coatings, again, in traditional model, we have 10, we pay 10 of powder coating. In chemical leasing, we pay for a square meter or surface of coated surface. Again, labeling of bottles. Instead of payment ton of glue, we pay a number of labeled bottles. Which processes are suitable for chemical leasing? Because not all processes are suitable. Chemical leasing can be applied in many industries, in textile industry, in car manufacturing, even in agriculture. And the processes that are part of chemical leasing plants are usually non-core processes in the company, but it is not always the case. For example, if you are talking about washing laundry in a hotel or hospitals, it is not core business. But if we are talking about laundry, it is core business for that company. Where we can apply chemical leasing, so in cleaning of surface, in metalworking, in laundries, in insulation on sandwich panels, or edge bending in wood processing industry. In food processing industry, this is cleaning in place. Also in agriculture, in lubrication of PET packaging line or glass packaging line in beverage industry, also in surface protection, or in gas and oil drilling. And we have experience in all of these industries and processes. It is also important to determine whether there are economic or other reasons that justify implementation of chemical leasing. In this case, it is a case study from Serbia. We had slippery floors, we have hazardous chemicals in use, and problem with bottles falling. And in this case, it is really important to implement chemical leasing. You will hear something about this case, I suppose, if you participate in national trainings. In this case, it is also a case from Serbia. We had high solvent consumption, frequent change of the solvent, high waste generation, and the quality of cleaning was not so good. And it is really, really important to implement chemical leasing in this case, and we had really great results in this case. But if we, for example, this is varnishing and printing services on tin plates, varnish is applied by Lawrence, and there is no chance to make improvements in this process, so chemical leasing is not justified to implement in this case. Oh, sorry. But there are processes that are not suitable for chemical leasing. For example, if you have a chemical reaction to produce products, chemical leasing is not a suitable one, because you have the stoichiometric reaction, and you can do very much about that. This is, in short, chemical leasing. We have chemical user and chemical supplier and chemical user. This is the simplest model. Other partners can be involved in this process, but in this case, we are talking about these two partners. And it is very important that chemical supplier has know-how to offer for more efficient and safer application of chemicals, again safer. And chemical user, but know-how of chemical user is also important, because we know in industry, even the same process are different in different organizations. And what is the point? They have the same goal, their motivation is bundled. Both partners are interested in achieving better performance and designed quality by using less chemicals. How it looks like, bundle contradictory in motivation, because supplier would like to sell more and more to earn more and more, but of course user would like to spend less chemicals, but their motivation is contradictory. But in chemical leasing business model, they have bundle motivation. For supplier, less is more. For user, of course, less is more. I'm going to present you, to show you very, very briefly case study. This case study won the first award, chemical leasing award this year. And it is very good example how chemical leasing can improve not only chemicals consumption, but also other resources. The main task of chemical leasing is to save chemicals, but it is always connected with some other savings, like other chemicals that are related to the process of water and energy. This is laundry in one of the biggest hotel chain in Croatia, Hotel Plava Laguna. And they work together with the company Ecolab on chemical leasing implementation. The first what they have done was to substitute chemicals. So chemical leasing can be substitution of chemical or process optimization or process optimization. And the process was modified by installing automatic dosing station for liquid detergents. Before chemical leasing, they used to use powder detergents that were some of these detergents were hazardous, but these chemicals, these detergents are not hazardous. And what is also very important, they are very effective. They have high washing efficiency at lower temperatures than powder detergents. And they do not contain dangerous substances according with the EU regulations that are very strict, you know, I suppose. And by this action, consumption of chemicals is reduced by 29%. What about energy consumption? Because they laundry at lower temperature. For 95% of laundry washing temperature is reduced to 50 to 55%. A wastewater heat exchange was installed and water is preheated. And by this action, the steam consumption dropped from 0.6 kilogram per kilogram of linen to 0.48. And that means about 500,000 kilograms of steam per year less. Saving is about 20%. About water consumption, it is now recycled and reused, and annual savings are about almost 21 million liters of water per year. That means 51%. This case is really a very good example of chemical leasing. What's about money? Total savings are about 140,000 euros per year. But and we are talking about chemical leasing. We always know it is very clear and transparent savings of user, because before you start the model implementation, you have to prove that you will have more efficient and cheaper, let me say, process. But usually we don't know about supplier. If they would like to tell us, it is okay. But of course, they have some increase in their profit. In this case, supplier increased its profit by 18%. It is really very good results for them as well. But it is not only for suppliers. They all want to have bigger market share. They have, of course, market share, and they have, let me say, they ensure selling of their products, because chemical leasing is not a short-term project. We have some chemical leasing criteria, sustainability criteria. First of all, if we are talking about chemical leasing, we have to have reduction of adverse impacts for environment, health, energy, and resource consumption, caused, of course, by chemicals and their application, and also production processes. Second, we have to improve handling and storage of chemicals to prevent and minimize risk. In some cases, storage of chemicals are sold very, very well in companies, but almost always we have improvement in handlings. In this case, we have improvement because workers are, I mean, in this Plava Laguna case, handling because we have automatic dosing, and workers do not get in contact with chemicals like before, so we have improved handling. And very important, it is also connection with green chemistry, no substitution of chemicals by substances with a higher risk. It is very important because we know many hazardous chemicals are more efficient than innocent ones. For example, chlorinated solvents, we all know that cleaning effect of chlorinated solvents are really much better than other, but if we are talking about chemical leasing, no substitution of chemicals by substances with a high risk. Also, we have to have economic and social benefits, and also contracts should contain objective of continuous improvement and should enable a fair and transparent sharing of benefits between the partners. And at the end, monitoring of the improvements needs to be possible. Of course, it is very important. And for conclusion, there is in IOMC ToolBox, there is a chemical leasing toolkit, and you will learn about it if you are going to be a part of national trainings. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Foika. So Foika and Branko already explained about IOMC, an introduction about IOMC ToolBox, and then also about the green chemicals. Yeah, we have because in the future, Branko said that in the next 15 years, maybe we will double or maybe triple our chemical production, including in our Asia zone. And then Branko also say that in conclusion, we can live without chemicals. Yeah. So we already spending a lot of money because of some chemicals that we use in the past time, and hopefully with the green chemicals, so using the green chemicals or with the concept of green chemistry, we will save our future, our children's future, and our Earth future. Yeah, and then Foika also explained about the chemical leasing, and she already compared about the traditional business models and also chemical leasing models. Yeah, and Foika also gives some implementation case in Serbia, and also brief introduction or about the impact of these chemical leasing models in energy demand, water consumption, and total saving costs. Yeah. So thank you for all participants that already sent the question for the two speakers. So I will show the question now. Moment. Sorry. Okay. So it's around 8 questions. Yeah, and I think it's the same percentage the question between to Foika and also to Branko. So I will start with you, Branko. The first question is from participants. He wants to know how does one able to kickstart green chemistry chemical leasing business according to the toolbox. Maybe you can answer first.
I would invite Vojka to because green chemistry is more complicated how to start a green chemistry business model. I mean, green chemistry is related to the design of chemicals and not only on one process, but it is very specific how you can start chemical leasing, what is required to start a chemical leasing. So if you allow me, I would invite Vojka to answer this question.
Okay, please.
Thank you, Branko. It is also not very simple to explain. It is not complicated, but there are several steps, and in your national training, I believe you will have presentation step by step, chemical leasing step by step, how to recognize which processes are suitable for chemical leasing, which companies are suitable, to identify quantity of chemicals, nature of chemicals, if they are hazardous or not, to identify suppliers that can help user by know-how, and so on. So you can see it in Chemical Leasing Toolbox. Toolkit. It is also step-by-step approach, and you have, I think we have, I'm not sure, about 8 steps how to work on chemical leasing. But the first steps is to recognize who is potential candidate for chemical leasing, user side and supplier side.
Okay, thank you, Foika. So maybe if you want to get the insight of this for implementation of chemical leasing, you have to go to the training, right?
Yes, exactly.
Let's just, if I may say, I mean,
yes,
it is very difficult to answer the question, especially about chemical leasing. And Voika was working on, I don't know how many Voika, but 10, 15 cases. Everything starts with, you have to first, Voika told you what are the processes which are suitable for chemical leasing. Then you go to a company, you determine whether there is a potential, then you measure what is the consumption right now, and then you determine how it will go in the future. So I feel that maybe not all 62 participants, at one moment we had already 70 participants, maybe will not be at the training. So I think we can give them some idea. But if you go to a chemical leasing toolkit, there, even if you don't have time, you are not interested to join the national training, and I invite you to do it, you can do it yourself. You find appropriate processes, you go to, you have a lot of documentation, the questionnaires to ask yourself, the company which you are working in, and the most important, you can have a case studies, because we think that it is the best now to replicate something which is already existing. Thank you. I hope, Voika, you agree with me.
Yes, I agree. When we started chemical leasing in other companies, I mean, besides Serbia, we recommended them to start with the company Ecolab, that is American company, and that is very keen on chemical leasing. And for example, in Brazil, they do their case in chemical leasing. I'm not sure about other countries, I cannot remember, but it is a very good way to start with processes that are already known in the world. For example, to approach Ecolab or some company like Ecolab and to talk with them about that.
Yeah, to tell that, for example, if you are a consultant, we didn't make so much money with chemical leasing because Voika was a pioneer there, and we had a lot of effort just to convince companies to start. But I would say if you are talking to hotels in Indonesia, and I'm sure that you have a lot of them, and if you have a local representative, Ecolab there, I'm sure that they will be interested. I'm sure that they will be interested to learn about the business model, and then your organization, if you are a consultant or NGO or a university, you may even try to charge a small fee, because Ecolab is making a lot of money now because of chemical leasing. They made even a lot of money before, but now they are able to enter into a new markets or to keep the markets because they are using chemical leasing business model, and the others have to catch up. You know, that's also, it is a business model. This is the beauty of it. People are making money and in the same time decreasing the usage of chemicals, and in the same time using in a safer way. And this is especially, I was so glad about the hotels, because in hotels, chemicals are used in different areas, but are used in cleaning And most normally people who are doing cleaning, cleaning ladies or cleaning personnel, they don't have any knowledge about chemicals. They are overusing them. They are exposed to dangerous and hazardous chemicals. And in this case, when Ecolab comes to the hotel, they learn, they teach them how to use them in the best way. And they install dosage materials so they don't have to count how many kilos or, I don't know, other liters they put. They just put under the dosage machine, and they get a proper amount. So it's really brilliant. And they reduce for 30% the chemicals in the first step, and they continuously reduce.
And it is very interesting. The unit of payment is a number of overnights. So it is very interesting.
Okay, thank you, Foika and Branko. So we still have many questions, and maybe some of them already involved in the first question. So it is from Agusta Samudra Putra. She said, thank you very much for the interesting sharing, Dr. Branko. I'm interested with the term atom economy. Can you explain briefly about it?
Yes, I can reply like Foika. If you stay with us for the training, you will learn. But I will, if you allow me, I will share my screen from the presentation that you are going to present also about the metrics in green chemistry. I hope you see the.
Yeah, I can see.
This is, so what's the name of the person who asked the. Augusta. So if you stay with Tiandra and Myrina and the others, you will be seeing this slide also. But the atom economy is one of the metrics that we, the green chemistry wants people to use. Normally you use a yield, the selectivity, or whatever, but we never use the atom economy. Atom economy is one of the 12 principles of the green chemistry. And you can see here that we want to use as much atoms from the starting material to introduce them into a material which is our finished products. So here on this pyramid, you can see that 0% atom economy if you don't have any reaction or wrong reaction. That means that none of the atoms from the starting materials will go into finished materials. And at the top, you have addition or rearrangement reactions, isomerization. So there are no waste, there is nothing. All the atoms which are in the starting materials, they just go into a finished materials. And this is one example here. Atom economy is mass of the desired product from divided by the mass of the all reactants, and you see that it includes a stoichiometric coefficient. In this bromination reaction, you can see how many atoms from the starting materials are going into desired product. And you can see here, I'm not going into details, reactant 1, reactant 2, reactant 3, and the desired product is 137, number 4. You divide it by all the materials, all the reactants. So you see that only 50% of the atoms present here are going into desired reaction. So this is just a small example what you are going to learn if you stay. And there are others. There is product mass intensity, atom economy, and I think there are 10 different metrics used in green chemistry. I hope it is a little bit clearer now.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Augusta, for the question. So we will continue with two questions for Branko from Azalea and one of the participants. When we design a green synthesis pathway, which should we prioritized in terms of IOMC to fit in the design criteria? Will it be part of the training course? And then about green chemistry, how could we be sure that the process operation could be included as a green chemistry?
Yeah, first the first question. I have it. I opened Slido, so I must say that IOMC toolbox is just containing green chemistry toolkit. There are no criteria in the IOMC toolbox to that you have to fulfill to be included in a green chemistry, but rather I'm reading the question: design green synthesis pathway. Which should we prioritize? It's not. I would say that it's not in terms of IOMC. It's in terms of 12 principles of the green chemistry, and yes, it will be a part of training course. What steps should be taken in order to be sure that it is greener than it is right now? But let me just say here, there is no absolutely green chemistry right now. Absolutely green chemistry is in our bodies. This is absolutely green. Absolutely green is in the nature. This is absolutely green because we are not creating chemical reactions which are taking place in our bodies and which are producing 37 temperature of our bodies are going without waste, or this waste is degraded in the nature. This is the ideal that we have. So if we can create, for example, our skin is a great material, our hair is a great material, a spider web is a great material. Create it on room temperature, in water, at ambient pressure. If we can create those kind of materials, this is absolutely green chemistry. What we can do with our knowledge of 300 years of doing modern chemistry, we can now think how to avoid some unnecessary steps, how to avoid waste, etc. So there is no absolutely green chemistry right now. It can be greener than something else. And if you stay on the course, you will get a lot of examples. For example, synthesis of ibuprofen, that was 7 steps, now it's only 3 steps. Atom economy increased from 20% to 70% or whatever. And as a result, as I said, if it is done properly and if we have a right idea, those products are better, cheaper. I mean, not cheaper per kilo, but then take into account a chemical leasing thinking. We don't care about kilo, we care about the whole life usage. Then they are better for the environment and better for the industry which is producing them. I hope because IOMC is just a platform in which green chemistry toolkit is included. There is no other relationship with IOMC than that UNIDO contributed to IOMC by including a green chemistry toolkit in there. And I see the next question: how could we be sure? Yeah, that it could be included as in green chemistry. I think I replied to this question. You should check for 12 principles of green chemistry. And for me, 12 principles of green chemistry are like a questionnaire for ourselves. Did I check this? Did I calculate atom economy? Only 30%. Can I increase it? And etc., etc. So you should check all the 12 principles of green chemistry. And I'm sure that you cannot check all 12 of them. For example, the example that I showed, the Braskem green polyethylene, is not completely a green chemistry. For example, it's not designed for biodegradability. They are using renewable feedstocks. Atom economy is good. Energy efficiency is more or less good, but you are getting, at the end of the process, you are getting the old polyethylene, which cannot degrade in the nature. So it is greener than from the oil, but it's not absolutely green.
Okay. Thank you. So then I will move to FOICA about the chemical leasing, and there are two questions about the green chemistry, but I will move to FOICA first. The question is coming from two participants. Yeah, there are two questions about the why is chemical leasing important. Maybe you have to more deep introduction about this. And then the second one is what is the difference between chemical leasing and third-party business? Because many industry give the utility operation, such as boiler operation, to third party. So FOICA,
Okay,
can you...
Let's start with the first one. Why is chemical leasing important? It is important for business because business care about profit. We saw profit is increased for both user and supplier of chemicals. In case, I show you the case Plava Laguna and Ecolab, a supplier increased their profit by 18%. Can you imagine? You have 18% more profit than before. And for user, you saw I don't know exactly how it impacts their profit, but they save 140, I think, 140,000 euros per year. So that is regarding business. But it is not only about business, that is about health and safety of their workers. In this case, I'm going to talk about this case, but if you will participate in national trainings, you will see much more examples, case studies. Workers are safer because, first of all, they don't get in contact with chemicals. Temperature is lower. You can imagine during the summer on the Adriatic coast, temperatures are high, but working conditions are better because temperature is lower, not anymore 70 or 80 degrees, but 50 degrees. Also environment, because we use less energy, less water. That is why chemical leasing is important. And why it is, what is the difference between so-called outsourcing, let me say, it is outsourcing. What is the difference? It is a very big difference because if you give your operations with chemicals to some third party, you are not involved in this process. They do everything for you. They purchase chemicals and everything, and you don't know what are they doing. For example, it is very good example. For example, in car producing, if you let your supplier, for example, BASF or whoever, to paint your car, and you would like to paint your car, for example, in red or yellow. Red or yellow paint can contain lead pigments. What does it mean? You have hazardous chemicals in your paint, and you don't know that. But if you are involved, you are not going to, maybe, you are not going to involve lead pigments. They are, of course, not of course, but they are cheaper, and maybe that would be the reason why supplier would like to implement it. That is the difference between. So in case of outsourcing, you don't have clue about process. Everything is done by your supplier. In chemical leasing, you are involved and you work together with supplier. You learn, you exchange know-how, you get knowledge and can implement that knowledge in, for example, in other processes. That is in short, let me say.
Okay, thank you. And then I will go to the next question is, I think it is for Branko, but I will shift to FOICA again. Yeah. So I think to see if the industries become green and leasing industry should be supported by government policies such as tax holiday for such this industry? And the second question is how to define industry, public, and government in the leasing and green chemistry. Is it dependent on government policy than the company or industry effort? Maybe Voika or Branko, can you answer?
Yeah, Voika, you can go ahead.
Okay.
If you want.
Do you hear?
You're breaking up.
I think to shift industry become green and leasing industry should be supported by, yes, by government policy, such as the, yes, you are right. And Branko, you know it better. There are some governments that signed the letter of understanding or something like that to support chemical leasing. And it is always very important to have policies that support some activities like chemical leasing or also green chemistry. Yes, yes, you are right. And how to define industries, public and government in the leasing and green chemistry? Is it dependent on government policy? Again, that is the same. But also chemical leasing, it depends on both, of course. It depends on industry efforts, of course, but also on governments, because government can push some idea to be realized, like less hazardous chemicals, like chemical leasing. So both, I would say the both. I don't know, Branko, what do you think? But I think the both.
Yeah, I think that I understand the question that is it also a self-running business model, or is it dependent on subsidies or when you say tax holidays or whatever. So what I think is that the responsibility of the government policy, laws and regulations is to create an environment for the business and to motivate those who are using environmentally friendly products and initiatives. So I do not believe that, for example, they should pay or reduce tax to the people who are using chemical leasing. They just should maybe create awareness about that and strictly applying the regulations that already exist. Because I believe that all the regulations that are in place in your country, like in my country, if they are strictly applied, they will favor green chemistry and chemical leasing. And I will give you, if you, Voika, don't mind, the example of a factory automotive producer in Serbia. They were producing a great materials, and they had a lot of buyers, but their customer from Germany came and said, look, we are very concerned about your management of toxic chemicals in your process, and we cannot continue to buy from you if you continue to use your chemicals in unsustainable way. And they called Cleaner Production Center, they called Voika, and Voika went there and saw that there is a potential to use chemical leasing business model to offer them, to connect them with a company which is has a lot of knowledge in managing this type of chemical. And to shorten this story, they signed agreement on chemical leasing. They decreased the consumption of chemicals for, I believe, Voika 5 times or something like that. They don't have a problem with the waste.
90%, sorry.
Yeah, and they continue to work with their customer in Germany. So in this respect, we can say that the chemical leasing saved the company's business, because without connecting them with the supplier of a toxic chemical, who share the knowledge about the management and extension of the life of the chemical and recycling in place, they wouldn't be able to do it. And now they are continuing to work with their very important customer in Western Europe. So I don't believe in tax incentives. Maybe I'm too liberal. I believe in strict application of environmental law. And if the environmental law is strictly applied to everybody, then those who are using green chemistry and chemical leasing and sound chemicals management, they will have a better position in the country.
Okay, that is clear. Yeah. So thank you, and I will. We still have 3 questions. Sorry, I have to. This question is: how would chemical distributor, not a manufacturer, would go about promoting chemical leasing instead of traditional way, where price and quantity is well defined? Maybe Voika.
It is, let me say, easy to understand because distributor, we have, in this case, Branko mentioned, distributor is involved. He is even investor in some equipment, distillation unit. So it is not a problem because they sign a contract with the manufacturer, they sign the contract with the user, and it is, let me say, easy to manage. In all our cases, I cannot remember, but I think all of them are some distributors or representatives. For example, if you're talking about Ecolab, we are talking about representatives in countries, not about manufacturer, and so on. So it is not a problem.
Yeah, if I may add, Voika, you
Yes.
remember that we were asked by Ecolab to go to Coca-Cola with them.
Yes.
So they feel that chemical leasing became a selling tool, which is perfect. So they make more business and they go in sustainable way.
Thank you for mentioning Coca-Cola. It is a very, very nice example of chemical leasing because we have Coca-Cola Helsinki in Serbia. They work, I'm not sure, but I think about 10 countries. They have production lines. And the first who started chemical leasing was Coca-Cola in Serbia. And when they have the annual meeting on purchasing, Coca-Cola Serbia asked to work on chemical leasing business model, and many other countries started to work on chemical leasing. Switzerland, I cannot remember how many countries, but most of them are now in chemical leasing business model.
Poland, Russia.
Poland, Russia, yes.
So it's giving big impact.
Ukraine as well, yeah.
Okay. So now is the question about the implementation, I think. So the first question is in Indonesian, so I will translate. It's about how green chemistry can implement it in downstream industry of petroleum product.
Oh, it's a very specific question. I'm not really competent to answer it, but in the compendium, there are, I think, 20 examples in petroleum industry. So I would invite participants to go there and to find it, since I'm not a specialist in petrochemical. I mean, downstream is petrochemical industry, and I believe that it is, I mean, it is mostly about using more efficient catalysts, using maybe some renewable energy, etc. But most of the present day green chemistry solutions are in technology compendium.
Okay. So maybe also in the training we can think about
exactly. So you are, if there is an interest to for a petroleum industry, because in the meantime I check the economy of Indonesia, at least on Wikipedia, and I see that most is agriculture, 27%, industry, no, it's labor, but GDP, agriculture is contributing 13.7% to your country, and industry is 41%, and most of it is palm oil, petroleum. So I can understand that there is a huge interest, and I would advise Chandra and you, Marina, and your team to invite somebody who is a specialist in downstream, and to check with we can help you to get in contact with Yale University, so they can provide you maybe more information about green chemistry application in petroleum industry.
Okay, yeah, good idea. So I will continue with a question from our college. So this is from Pak Nugroho Adi Sasongko from National Research and Innovation Agency. So his question is how to correlate chemical substances impact with life cycle inventory and impact assessment, LCIA. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Yeah, I also would say that this life cycle assessment will be covered during your national training. I'm not sure that is this something, maybe I'm not educated, chemical substances impact, is it some metrics which is used in the field?
Yes, chemical substances.
So sorry, can I?
Yes, Adi. Yes, silakan Pak Adi.
Sorry, I'm interpreting. Can I a bit?
Pak Adi ada feedback suaranya mungkin Pak Nugroho Adi.
Yes, you can maybe try again because there was a background noise.
Silakan Pak.
Sorry, I a bit revise my question. Is that possible to correlate the green chemistry substance with the chemical, the life cycle inventory? I mean, like a recipe or a CML. How to correlate that? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, during the national training, you will have a specially dedicated session about metrics, and life cycle assessment is very important for green chemistry, and we should use green chemistry, life cycle assessment in deciding what to do. And I can just give you an example about life cycle assessment in Procter & Gamble, which is, I don't know, old, but still relevant. You can see here the reference where it was done, and you see here from manufacturing, packaging, use, and disposal, they wanted to determine what was the biggest impact of their products, and what do you think, what is the costing the most in terms of greenhouse gas emissions? And the life cycle inventory showed that the use stage of their products was having the biggest impact on greenhouse gas emissions. And their decision was to make a cold wash. So that's how they can influence the whole life cycle by selling the detergent, which can work at 25 to 30 degrees. So we avoid heating the water to 60 degrees in our washing machine. So in every decision-making process, we must use life cycle assessment to avoid that something which seems very obvious to us becomes very, gives a very negative impact to on the whole life cycle. So this is again only one slide from the national training that you are going to receive. There is a lot of answers there, and also in the Green Chemistry Toolkit.
Okay. Thank you, Pak Nugroho Adi. So now we will question with Mr. Arif Sani. The question is about pesticide. Sorry, I can show. I have a problem to show the question. Pak Agung, can you need to? Oh, okay. So I already. Okay. Yeah. So the first question is about, may I know whether EU regulation has implemented green chemistry in the pesticide industry? Please share your point of view. And the second question for Arif Sani, how to apply IOMC toolbox to our pesticide products, and how responsibility on the result of using toolbox?
Yeah, thank you for that question again. We work with pesticides in chemical leasing, but this is completely new. This is completely specific area and very important, especially for the countries with agriculture industry, which is important. But first of all, green chemistry is not a law. Green chemistry is not a regulation. So EU regulation did not mention green chemistry, and there is no regulation which says you have to apply green chemistry solutions. But there are other regulations about hazardous properties, about quantities, etc., etc. So yes, I would say that EU regulation about pesticides includes most principles of the green chemistry. And the other question is about, let me just.
Yes,
it's about.
It's about the IOMC toolbox to the.
Yes, I'm trying to share my screen, and this is again. I will invite you to join. Do you see my screen? Do you see my screen?
Yes.
So this is I'm now at the website of IOMC Toolbox, and if you can repeat the question, how we can. It's about how we can use IOMC Toolbox for pesticides for your country. So this is here. You can select management schemes. I talked, there are 8, and there is a national management scheme for pesticides. So if you go down, so you say, for example, I have limited resources, and it goes you show you every aspect, but here you can find a national management scheme for pesticides, and you can, for example, you want to do the application of chemicals. If you are interested in application and drafting the law, then you can find OECD guidance on pesticide compliance and enforcement best tech. You can download it and consult it. You can go to FAO guidelines, standards for agricultural pesticides, good practice for guidelines for procedure for registration, certification, testing new pesticides. So you can see a lot of resources, and that's what I'm saying, how you can use the IOMC toolbox. As for the, I think that the question was also responsibility. if I'm.
Yeah, maybe our time is
Yes,
already
yes,
5
yes.
o'clock. Yeah.
I think that yeah, responsibility of the using of toolbox. So I don't see any problems, because the product of your work, if you are from the government, is your law. Using the toolbox, you will make sure that you are using the most correct, the latest, and the most precise and the best materials that you have available in this respect. So you will, it will help you to develop a good regulation. And but of course, you cannot, if something is wrong in your law, I don't think you can sue or go to court with IOMC. So the responsibility is yours. You cannot just say this law is made using IOMC toolbox and you don't have any responsibility. Responsibility is on the ministries. But of course, the IOMC, what is responsibility of the IOMC is that all the materials which are in the IOMC are checked, verified, and relevant.
Okay. Yeah. So it's already a source that we can believe. Yeah. And then, okay. So because it's already at 5 o'clock in the afternoon in Indonesia, so we have to finish our question and answer session. I'm really sorry to our two participants that are also asked the question from Ibu Josephine and Amita. Maybe we can meet in the training, national training, and we discuss more about the question. Okay, I will shift to our next session, explanation about the national training. So please, I want to say thank you again to Branko and Voika. It's really happy to have both of you here and give some insight about the green chemistry and chemical leasing. And now, Professor Chandra.
Yeah, I think so. I will be very short because of Branko in the introduction has given the objective of our training, and I've sent in the chat box regarding the national training. So basically, I would like to say that please read regarding our training. It is in the Bahasa Indonesia, in the Indonesian language. So you may go through in the explanation. I think I give you in the note regarding the who is we are working with the Indonesian Cleaner Production Center or PPBN, Pusat Produksi Bersih Indonesia, and what is the objective? I think the objective has been addressed by Branko, and also about the references like IOMC Toolbox, Chemical Leasing Toolkit, and Green Chemistry Toolkit. And that one will be 7 half-day training. The first one will be in the 25th, not 23rd. I think I did wrong. 25th of November. So 25th of November. I sent the second revise. It is 25th, not the 23rd. So in the Thursday, 25th of November, that one will be the training with the others countries like with the Sri Lanka and Vietnam. So if you and also which the target of the participant from the ministry, if you are working in the research institution, and also if you are lecturers, and also it might be postgraduate student, it might be postgraduate students or senior students will be appropriate. But if it's a young student, it might be or junior student, it might be. It's just to add fun probably for you. For someone working in the industries, working with the chemical management, and also from the NGOs. So if I give also the contact persons and also the form, but of course we wait until the end of not next week. It's still 2 weeks to go. In the 19th of November. Yeah, 19th of November. So that, but it might be the number of participants will be it will be limit. We limit the number of the participants, probably 50, something like that is a maximum. If it is too high, too many, I think so will be. It is the discussion will be not too good. So
not effective.
Yeah, and 50. So things are at the moment we are still thinking it might be could be online, but could be hybrid. But we are still probably in this week we will decide either it is fully online or hybrid. So that one is regarding the situation. I think so. That's all from me. I already sent the information through the chat box. So please, I would like to invite you to join the training. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. Chandra. Maybe 1 minute, maybe any of the participants have question about the national training?
Sorry, is it free?
Yes, correct. It is free. Free of charge.
That's important question, yeah?
As long as so it is free of charge.
Thank you, Prof.
Yes. But you'd like to complete all the training on 7 days. So we are very welcome if you could finish all the training session. It is free of charge. So the national training will be from the beginning November 25th. So that one is 25 November sampai dengan akhir sampai 20-an Desember. So dari 25 ya, 25.
So it's about 2 times a week ya, 2 kali seminggu gitu ya, Pak.
Yeah.
Dan masing-masing pertemuan itu setengah hari Bapak Ibu gitu.
Yeah.
Iya.
Yeah, only half day, setengah hari aja. So.
Oke. Iya. Ada lagi pertanyaan Bapak Ibu mengenai national training? Oke. Kalau tidak ada, terima kasih Prof. Chandra. So